Hi, my name is Dominic Solly.
And I'm Heather Ford, and we are here today with Clara Knophler and Michael Mark. They are both two Holocaust survivors that we have the pleasure to interview and get some of their insights from. So just to start, how long have you guys been speaking out about everything that you guys went through?
I started to speak out only in the United States. I lived after the Holocaust in a communist country, Romania, and they were not interested to hear the story. They had their own ideology to build up. But when I came here in 1962, I started to teach French and Latin, and then the principal asked me, you can teach about something else also. So it took me a couple of years till I felt free. But I would say in 1970 I started to speak, and then I belonged to an organization that is called Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center. And there I had at least 20 presentations a year in schools, churches, temples. Wherever they asked me, this became a mission to never forget the worst genocide of mankind.
And what about you, Michael?
Okay, and I never wanted to speak about it. And that it just happened, we belonged to that temple, the Sinai temple on Wilshire Boulevard, and they asked me to tell my story, and I tried every way not to. And luckily a friend of mine who was a psychiatrist talked me into it to try it. And after I tried it, I completely changed. And that was roughly 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And since then, luckily, I could do it. So I spoke, you name it, I mean, every high school around, and including I was speaking here also in the chapel, maybe 2 years ago or less, you know.
Okay.
And like I said, long as I could do it, I can't say no.
Is it harder to talk about it the more you talk about it, or is it easier as the time goes
Easier,
on?
even easier, yes. I never would believe it, you know.
It's a catharsis.
I mean, years ago, I remember things like we were in Jerusalem many years ago, and we had our own tour bus. They took us naturally to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum, and we all got off, including myself. I came to the door, I couldn't walk in. So I was waited, I don't know how many hours until they all came out, and that's it. They couldn't walk in. Wow. Now I could do it. But I just absolutely couldn't do it that time.
Well, it really helps that you guys are speaking out about this. We would like to ask you a few questions about your experience during everything that was happening. So did you want to start?
Yeah, I would. We were talking about, with you especially, when you guys were loaded into the cattle cars, like what was the overall feeling around all the people around you and even with yourself?
I mean, you can, I have no word for it. You know, we had no idea what happening. We didn't know nothing what happening. We were, you know, taken away to an open field a couple of weeks before, and all kind of rumors were, you know, what happening. You know that the good rumors was they're gonna take us to work somewhere on a, you know, farming and all that, which one was good. And the other thing, we heard rumors they're gonna take us to Poland and kill us, but you just can't believe such a thing happened. Anyhow, I came a time and they were marched us to the railroad station, and all the cattle cars waiting for us, and kept loading and like top of each other. And again, I can imagine even today, all those, the kids are crying, they were already hungry and thirsty. And at the bottom line, we're top of each other, and no water, no food, nothing. They closed the doors and we were heading for somewhere. We had no idea where.
Wow.
And how old were you?
I was like luckily 18.
Okay.
Because if you were not the right age, then when you arrived in Auschwitz, you were taken to the gas chamber, and marched to the gas chamber, you were finished.
Okay.
So I was lucky enough to be the right age to be a slave. Yeah.
And how old were you when they took you?
17.
17. Did they do the same thing
The same
in the cattle
thing.
crane?
I have to add to it that in the cattle wagon, it was a constant hunger, crying.
Yep.
The little kids from 2 months old till old, my grandmothers were in the same, and it was a terrible feeling of insecurity, of We never know what happening. Really, the greatest weapon of Nazis was the secrecy. There were rumors that we will work somewhere, we will go. We just didn't know what will happen with my 2-month-old cousin. What will she do in the factory where the father or the mother was supposed to work? That was their best weapon, and we just couldn't imagine the next step. What will happen to us?
It's interesting you guys say that about the rumors, because learning about this in school, I've never heard anything about them being secretive and starting rumors about where you guys were going.
Rumors were only in the time of Nazis for us, the Jews, because somebody escaped from Poland and came to Transylvania. Transylvania, I'm Dracula's niece. So Transylvania, they came and they stopped. My father invited them for dinner, and they told us what's going on in Poland. We did not want to believe it. My father, this couldn't happen to us. I didn't do any bad things. And they said, get out of the country if you can. Why? I have a house here, I have living here. We did not want to believe it.
So who were you taken away with who in your family?
We were taken away in the ghetto first, from Transylvania with a cattle car.
Was it your whole family or just you and your
my
mother?
whole family. 39 members of my family who lived in Hungary that time. Only my mom and I survived. Nobody else.
So you were taken with your mom on the cattle car, or was there more of your family members on there?
The whole family was there.
And we tried to be at the same cattle car.
Exactly.
We tried very hard to be in the same cattle car.
The families.
Yeah.
Brothers, sisters, grandchildren. We wanted to be together. But in Auschwitz, they separated us immediately. Old from young, men from women. And my mother, by sheer luck, was pushed to she was a young woman, 44 years old, so she was used very well as a slave.
So getting into my next question, I know that you and your mother, you say, had a strong relationship, and she was one of the reasons, or the main reason you wrote your book. What do you think that your relationship got stronger as you were in there, or was
it's
it
a
bond?
Before? It's a bond that nobody could feel. She was a mother even when a mother had no roles. She was happy to be able to wash my dress while I was in the tent. She washed in the river my dress and brought it back, and I was staying in my blanket. That was what she could do for me, but that showed mother. If she had a bigger piece of bread, definitely would.
Sure.
I told you the story about the January 19th, on my birthday. It was a selection again. The Russians were coming, and we had to be taken away, not to show the Russians what happened to us. And she had a little package in her hand, and I said, "What's that, Mom?" "That's a present for you. You are 18 years old."
Oh.
Now can you picture? We had nothing to eat, and she had a present for me. So the present was 3 slices of bread with a little margarine in between. And that was a layer cake for my birthday. And I was flabbergasted. I tried to find out, "Mom, where did you get the bread?" She said, "Well, you didn't eat last night your portion." I didn't eat. I could eat the stone. I was so hungry all the time. She didn't eat for 3 days to make her daughter a present for her 18th birthday.
That is so sweet.
Well, since you were talking about actually going into the camp and experiencing all these things, what do you think was the scariest moment that you guys experienced while in the camp? Was there any images that just stuck in your mind, or I'll just go with Michael on this.
I mean,
start it off.
I mean, like I said, we still first we arrived in Auschwitz in my situation. Then we were selected to go to a work camp. So when we arrived in that work camp, it was nothing but tents set up, these small tents, and we were just, next on the dirt floor next to each other. That's the way we started out. And again, we still didn't know what's really happening. And naturally the barbed wire and the guards, on top of it. And then it was the biggest thing was to get a slice of bread in the morning. It was already unbelievable. You know, we were so hungry, starving very slowly, and the black coffee, that was the breakfast. And then went to work. In my case, we were building a railroad, you know, a small railroad, not a regular. And the whole reason was the small railroad, they were leading into a mountain where the next thing we were taking out stones. So the Germans preparing, you know, to be some kind of factory inside the mountain.
Yeah.
That was our job. So like I said, we had a slice of bread in the morning, the black coffee, and then some so-called soup, what you call it, what you want, you know, with hopefully always find something in it, you know, like potatoes or what. And that
They
was
called it potato soup.
Yeah, potato
But
soup.
we only saw
Right.
the peels in it.
Right.
Oh.
I mean, you're always hoping when they give you one serving that maybe a little bit more potatoes with it. Anyhow, that was our job every day, and again, it was mind-boggling. What we still didn't know really what really happening, you know, and it just happened. I was with my older brother and my father also. He was young enough, like 42 or something, and that was our everyday job.
Did you form any other bonds with like
I-
other prisoners? Or?
I mean, yes, we had. I mean, first, you know, one or two, you know, from my hometown, things like that. We tried to, you know, but the whole game was everything that just to have something to eat. That was the whole thing, you know, and hope and having hope that maybe someday we're gonna be liberated. Yeah, that
The
was
hope never
the-
left
yeah,
us.
the
The
hope.
hope never left us. The fence was electrically supplied. We had to touch only, and we could have been electrified. But we said maybe tomorrow, maybe an hour from now, there will be something. Hope never left us, especially my mother who had faith.
Yeah.
She never left her faith.
How did you keep such faith in such times of?
I still don't understand. I still don't understand because she was very religious. And when I asked her, Mom, where is our God? She didn't let me talk about it. We have to get well, we have to keep healthy, get out of here and tell the world so it never happens. So that's why I bought my book. It's unbelievable. How can you keep? Only hope can help you. If you're a strong believer, either by faith or by health, then, because every day somebody else died next to us. We didn't know why and how. Some malnutrition, some, there is a typhoid fever that came after 3-4 months as I worked in the anti-tank trenches. It was a very difficult and
And how long were you kept captive?
actually captive I was 6 months.
Okay.
But we walked home from Poland for 3 months. So
Wow.
walked from Poland to East Prussia, actually, to Hungary.
So did they just set you free and say you can go on your way now, or how did that work?
No,
so how you got away?
they started to come in the middle of January. The Russians were in East Prussia, and one day we were taken out from the tents and we were taken to a farm where people left the house. I don't know were they Germans or Polish, but they left. All 250 people who were marching were settled in this farm for a couple of days. We didn't know how long. But since I spoke German, I overheard the SS group. What can we do with these people in the stable who were there or who were in the farmhouse? And there was one guy who said, why don't we burn them? There is enough straw in the stable, they will all die. And there was one German who made a difference, a Nazi, an older guy, who said, well, I don't want to burn them because the whole region will stink of human flesh. I don't want the Russians should know what cruelty did we do. Another guy says, let's shoot them. again the old man said, well, if I have my bullets, I save it for me to protect myself. We don't know what happened later because they just left. This is what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of nowhere, they
Wow.
escaped to save their own life.
Mm-hmm.
They did not care about us.
Yeah.
And from there on, we were on our own with no maps, no money, no food, just go.
walking.
And we were begging, and people gave a couple of soup,
Mm-hmm.
tea, or something. They felt sorry for us. They did not know what happened to us. Population did not know. We worked outside of in the countryside, anti-tank trenches to dig against the Russian tanks, and they didn't know. They just saw that we were frozen in January, February, March, walking. And it was cold. It was not California.
Did you travel from house to house and people just let you
House
in?
to house. And when we were tired, we slept there in their, if they had a stable, we didn't sleep in their house, but,
Mm-hmm.
and besides that, we looked like we had, some of us, lice. We had no clothing. The only thing that covered us was a blanket that they gave us to cover us at night. That was our coat. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. If I speak to students who have 2 bathrooms, 3 TVs, they can't believe that with one dress I lived for 5 months.
Wow.
No panties, no socks, no stockings. The blanket was our coat. Can anybody of our children live like this?
And what about you, Michael? How long were you kept in?
I mean, I was over a year.
Oh,
There
wow.
were reasons here, what happened. They were the lucky ones who were liberated by the Russian. The Russian liberated usually around, I would say, end of January, if I'm correct. And we were liberated by the American soldiers, and that was around May, beginning of the May. So, and that, honest, I have to say that was the worst part from all the thing that because it was not, we were on the death march constantly, and from one camp to another one, like we wind up in Buchenwald, a terrible camp, Flossenberg, one of the worst. It was winter, cold, starving, everybody was dying everywhere. It was no chance to survive whatsoever unless you were liberated and liberated on time. That was no other chance.
But you were the lucky ones. The
Yeah.
Russians didn't have anything to eat. At
No,
least you got from the British and from the Americans some chocolate also. I heard that once and
No,
twice.
what
that
I,
true?
what I meant, no, what I meant honestly, what I meant that was unbelievable. The death march, you know, that extra.
You know why do we call it Death March?
Yeah.
No.
If you
Tell us.
walked for 10 kilometers, I would say 10 miles, and you couldn't walk because it was cold and hungry, and dropped. That was where he died. Nobody took care. They were left there and died. That's why.
Did
we
you
call
see a
it-
lot
I
of
mean,
that happening?
Yes,
And it was, everybody was dying. It was, I mean, we knew the one every day that maybe we have another day and maybe another day, and that's it. We knew it.
How long did you walk for
And it
after
was-
you got liberated?
Oh, it was started out from end of January till we were liberated in different camps first. But we stayed only a certain amount, a couple weeks, and then just keep that
Kept
going.
going.
We had no idea where we are. But it was like I said, absolutely there was chaos, and we knew that the war is getting to the end because we saw the German civilians are also with horse and buggies keep going and going. You know, we knew that there's something, and we heard far back, you know, the heavy artillery. You know, so that gave us some hope. But that didn't mean that you're gonna survive, because how much can your body takes, you know?
Yeah.
Didn't
And
mean anything.
there was already contagious disease, typhoid, from malnutrition, from cleanliness. We didn't have soap or water to wash, so that contributed. to the end, to die faster. My father died I heard from somebody who returned, 1 week before the legal end of the war. The 10th of May was the end of war, and he died 1st or the 2nd of May
That is so.
of typhoid fever.
Wow.
My brother died long before.
My father was with me, marched with my brother and my father, and came to a day that front of us collapsed, and that's it. And if we stopped to try to maybe help him, then you were killed.
Yeah.
Was that during the death march?
During the death march.
Wow.
That was the last time I saw him.
Wow.
So, what do you think are the lessons of the Holocaust?
Yeah, go ahead. You should know better.
The lessons are expressed by a couple, about 2,000 letters that I received from students.
Oh, wow.
The students, I would say college, high school, or even in graduate school. That people who are in normal situation should learn how to be vigilant, to find out what's going around you. We went like sheep to slaughterhouse. We didn't know anything about it. I told to my young students, if two people are fighting outside, find out why. Don't be indifferent. Don't be prejudiced because one is black or white, Jew or Arab. Don't be. Find out what kind of quality is your friend or your enemy. Don't just be a bystander. Be an upstander. To learn what's going around you. And also the family. Spoiled kids, they don't know what a mother can do for them, what a father can do for them. It was such a bond that I don't wish anybody to form that bond if not is necessary. In this last March, my mom fell 100 times. I did too. When she fell, I kept her close to me and walk, Mom. We have to. So the family, the strength of a family. What do we get from mom and dad who don't always buy what we want to buy, a new blouse or a new dress? These are not that important things. Fight against hatred. Hatred is bad for those who hate and who is hated. They looked at me and said, that's possible. From now on, I will never criticize my mother's food. Little things, they learn from it. So it never happens again. We have to emphasize the human qualities, not the bad. Kids are not prejudiced, when they grow up. Only the society.
Oh, yes, yeah.
The society is corrupt.
That's how they say it.
Sometimes. I don't want to say out loud.
Do you have any
That's
more?
my opinion, this is what they learn from all. And of course, I'm still here, my mother's voice. I show them the book. I want to tell them, this is written. Nobody can contest it. Read, write, find out what's going around you.
I encourage everyone to read your book because I read
You
a
read
lot
the
of
book?
it and it's very good. It's
What
very
I learned from it.
inspiring.
Yeah. She instilled me to take education. We don't have any other weapon. What do we do if we hit back, if we kill a German? They always ask me, would you kill Hitler now? What's the use of killing Hitler? Before education, we learn what happened, we build in present for the future. If I am gone, the kids will learn from it. And when I survived Auschwitz, I never thought that I will die ever. I was immortal. And my husband died in an accident, my mother died, and I think I won't be immortal either. So it's
Why
for the
get your story
future.
out.
And if there's one thing that you could tell our audience, like,
Just one last comment.
what would you want them to learn from your experiences?
I mean, that's the only reason I'm speaking most of the time. There's no other reason for the new generation that don't take anything for granted. You never know what could happen. I never believed in my life those days that civilized people could do such a thing. There's no way. How can you kill in front of you for fun the little children or babies? Like I remember, like today, when we arrived in Auschwitz, and they told the mother to let the child go, holding on to the little child, and like I remember in front of me, naturally, that what choice she had, and when they were separated, and she was crying for the mother, and the officer, the German officer, was annoyed with their crying. He goes and kills right there.
In front of
on
the
the
mother.
front of the mother, right in front of the mother. I watching it. I mean, it's how can you do this? At civilized people, I can to this day I can understand. And let's face it, the Germans, I think they were civilized. You know, again, I never could understand to this day how can it possible happen. And I honestly thought that after the war was over, no more war, no such a thing, no more killing, no. I mean, we learned from it. Looks like nobody learned from it.
Yes.
Sadly, nobody.
Or very few, because the deniers are still there. Ahmedinejad says that it's a myth. Holocaust never happened.
I know. What do you guys actually think about that? That people say that it never happened.
I mean, I'm not
Now
surprised.
when we have books,
I'm not surprised.
we have books, we have.
Well, why are you surprised by that?
I said not
You're
surprised.
not surprised.
Not surprised because, I mean, it's always people. There are you can change their minds. Some of these people. I mean, they are.
We must.
Even if they don't believe in it, they will tell. It's.
Well, that's why you guys have to get your story
anytime
out.
I read it, I said, I mean, what can you say? You're gonna change
Never
them?
give up.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah,
give
yeah,
up.
yeah.
We have to change them.
Yeah, but I mean, I can change some of these people. We know that. Let's assume sure, I would willing to talk to him and all that, and tell him, hey, listen, I was there and I saw it, but I don't think they would listen anyhow. So.
And both of you guys are living proof that it actually did happen.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
your experiences have touched all of us, I'm sure. So.
And it's still happening. It's still in Sudan. They are
I'm
killing
sure so.
Christians.
Genocides all over the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
There is, but we still have to fight. And this generation is going to fight against it.
But we have to
It's a
have.
burden on your shoulder, but you have to do it. And you have to fight against it.
All right. Well, I would like to thank you guys so much for coming here and speaking
You're
out.
welcome.
So
Thank
everyone
you
can
very
hear
Thank
your
you for
story.
inviting us. Yeah.
Oh,
And to
And
listen
thank you, all of you. To listen.
to listen.
Thank
and
you.
Trust us. Yeah.
Like I said, long as you are interested,
We are
as long as I
always
could do
ready.
it. We can't do it too many years more. We know that.
Yeah.
No secrets. We know that.
True.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Okay.
The most I took away from that was just all the details both of them went into and sharing their stories. I mean, it's not too often you get to hear from two Holocaust victims, so to hear all their stories of like how they got into that situation and how they eventually left was just like really intense. So I took a lot away from that.
A specific moment that stuck with me from the interview was when Clara was talking about her mom and how much her mom loved her, and on her birthday she didn't eat for 3 days so that she could make a little cake out of the bread and butter that they were given, and that was just really special to hear something like that, and really sad but touching.
Honestly, just the way they responded to it. They both didn't hold any grudges about it or anything, and they made it into more of a learning experience. And yes, it was a terrible time, and they're well aware of that, but instead of holding it against the people that were persecuting them, they turned it into a learning experience for the next generation, so this doesn't happen again.
Not to take things for granted. Everything that we do on a daily basis, we think we have so many problems, but, if there's one thing I could take away from this is just be thankful for what you have, because you never know when it's going to go away.
One lesson I learned is to be appreciative. Just due to the fact, because being an African American male, I'm kind of blessed to be born in the time I was born in, and like just fortunate for activities I didn't miss out. Just like how those people, they were born in those circumstances they were born in, and it was just, that's a painful experience to go through, something I couldn't even imagine. So it's just a humbling experience to say appreciate everything you have now, because you never know what could happen.
Listening to what they had to say about the Holocaust and the experiences that they went through really put into perspective like the major issues that people have had to deal with like through history. So like whenever like us today, like we think we have it bad, like oh we were late to class, or this person like doesn't talk to me anymore. Like in hindsight, like those things aren't that big of a deal compared to like, you know, having to walk for, you know, miles and days on end until you just drop dead, and not being able to go back and pick up your, you know, dying father. That, I mean, that's heart-wrenching.
Clara brought up something she's been asked previously in other interviews and stuff. She was like, if I had the opportunity to kill Hitler, would I? And she said no. And I just thought that was incredible, because what he did was so terrible, and she was, it's not that she was okay with it, but it's something that happened, and she is trying to make it better now and using it as a learning experience, like I said earlier, which I thought was just incredible.
Kids these days, they, just like us, we didn't know about the Holocaust until we learned in school. As in back then, people knew it they lived through that time period. So just like for her to make the book, to put the history out there, that's pretty strong, because personally, Holocaust is one of my favorite history subjects, because I find it to be an important part of our history as human beings, is how what we don't want to be like, and how we can move on and improve from what we were, or what people decide, because that should never happen again.
The one thing that stuck out to me the most was kind of almost like a forgiveness aspect. Claire was talking about how if Hitler came back, she wouldn't kill him. And I just think that's so crazy that he caused so much hardship for her and Michael and all their families, and that she would go back and say, no, I wouldn't want any harm to him. So I think that takes a really strong person to have no ill feelings towards that and move on with their life.